Welcome to the Everyday Miracles podcast, where real life stories of hope and inspiration are shared. Every day, miracles are happening all around us, yet we rarely hear anything about them. Why is that? I'm Julie Hedenborg, and I've committed my time and energy to bring these stories to you, including some of my own personal experiences. My hope is that you'll be impacted the same way that I was. Join me in my journey to inspire change in a world that so desperately needs it. Hey, welcome back. This is Julie with Everyday Miracles podcast, and today we have a special episode. I'm here with Julie Kemp, and you might remember Julie from her episode 19. We did Tragedy Evolves into Ministry. She has an amazing testimony. Her and Landon both came to my house, and they shared their grief journey, and it's a journey of healing. And then Julie actually became a grief share facilitator. So our topic today, she offered that day to do this, is how to cope with grief when the holidays are approaching. This is a really big thing for so many people I know personally right now. I'm kind of at that age, late 40s, where a lot of my friends' parents we're seeing some people passing. There have been a lot more than that too. So today, Julie has offered to come on, and out of her experience, personally and professionally, she wants to help you if you have lost someone that you love and you're facing the holidays this year. How do you get through it? And I want to remind you too, her episode 19 it's an amazing episode. Her and her son were actually on the Dr. Oz show, the 700 Club, so many different platforms, sharing her testimony. This happened in October of 1997. So she has 11 years of experience as a grief share facilitator, and her books, I just want to point out really quick before we get started. She wrote a book called Faith Has Its Reasons, right here. I've had the privilege of reading. This is such a beautiful book. Last time I hadn't read the whole thing. It's beautiful, and we're going to pull a little bit from that about the grief part today. And then Highway to Heaven. This is a book. Her son Landon actually had a heaven experience 3 times as a child in the accident they were involved in, and they've written a book to help children that have lost a loved one, and it's beautiful. I didn't do this last time. I'm going to do it because after you left, I was like, why did I show them the picture? And Landon might have been holding out on me a little bit because I've seen a lot of stuff here, but it's a beautiful book for children, and there's a Spanish edition too, just to kind of help them as they've lost someone. So all those links I'm going to post below. But Julie, why don't you start by just sharing with us a little bit about what the holidays were like for you that first year, because this was October.
Right. Yes, our accident was in October of 1997, and it was all right before the holidays. And as you mentioned, we were in a car accident, and my husband did not make it that day. So I was at the hospital praying that my son would live. They had not given me much hope. And so as the holidays were approaching, I didn't feel like I had anything to be thankful for. And our first Thanksgiving, I was at the hospital eating cafeteria food and just not, celebrating the holidays. And Landon was an amazing miracle, and he had his experiences in heaven, which I found out later. He was released from the hospital the week before Christmas. And I in no way was ready or prepared to celebrate the holidays. While Landon was in the hospital, I had developed a really bad habit, and I didn't smoke, I didn't bite my nails, I didn't do some other habits that people did, but I just started pulling my eyebrows out. And I would get them all out on one side, and then I would go and pull the other side. It was just a nervous habit of worrying and sitting at the hospital all those days. And so I developed a habit of pulling out my eyebrows, and it's a really bad habit because after so long, they quit growing back. So, yeah. But then, so we were home, and every single day when I would pull in the driveway and check the mail, we were just flooded with medical bills. And I had no idea who the doctors were, what the charges were for. It was just, so many doctors and centers and anesthesiologists. And, the only thing I knew is I would just check the date. And so my mailbox was flooded with bills. And the other thing that my mailbox was flooded with were cards. They were sympathy cards. They were Thanksgiving cards, thinking of you cards, and Christmas cards. And so I was very, very appreciative of all of the love and the support. But there was a part of me that was still very, very angry and hurt. And a lot of those cards, it was addressed to Miss M.S. Julie Whitley. And they had taken away my R. And it hurt so bad because I wasn't Mrs. Julie Whitley on these cards. And I wouldn't open them. So I was going through all my mail, and if they took my R away, I just threw it in the trash can. And I know. It was just like, I just felt it wasn't fair that I couldn't be that, And so, I'm sure everybody was really sweet, but I just missed having that. And I was very medicated on Prozac. I was suffering from anxiety, and I had panic attacks, and they had to just keep increasing the dosage for me because of my panic attacks and trying to deal with Landon. And so that Christmas, our very first Christmas at home, I was not wanting to celebrate. And Landon was struggling. He had some medical challenges and he was home, but what he was doing, he loved his friends. He loved for them to come visit, but he would hit them, and he didn't know how to express his grief. And the only Christmas present I bought our first Christmas, and I didn't even buy it, I just gave a friend my credit card, was a punching bag for Landon, so he would have an outlet to express his grief and not hit his friends. But we're trying to get through the holidays. Wasn't even trying to celebrate them. It was just to get through them. And I slept with a gun under my pillow. I went to bed every night, and I woke up every morning with it under my pillow and my hand on it, because I was living in so much fear that I was just afraid that something else bad could happen. It's like this always happened to somebody else. But when I was to somebody else, and I knew that I was the only one that could protect Landon if, someone broke in our home. And so I understand how hard the holidays can be.
Yeah. And Landon was how old when this happened?
Landon, he was 8 at the time of the accident. By the time he came home for Christmas, he had had a birthday and turned 9.
Wow. So over medicated, you didn't, I can understand how you would just want to pass on the whole Christmas.
Right.
So you mentioned you didn't even want to decorate.
No.
Yeah.
I encourage anyone, to rely on your inner circle of friends. And I had some amazing friends, and they're like, you've got to put up a tree for Landon. And I just didn't have the energy to do anything. I didn't have the energy to put up a tree and to decorate. And so I had a girlfriend that came over, and she put up a tree and decorated it. And I was appreciative of her doing that and taking the initiative. But when she finished, instead of saying, thank you, I appreciate that, I just said, well, you've got to come and take it back down. Because I didn't have the energy to even think about having to take everything back down and put it away.
Yeah. I think that's healthy that, in preparing for this, I read just some things about grief during the holidays. And one of them that I saw many times was setting healthy boundaries and borders, that you need to establish, and whether that's skipping out on the whole thing, whatever that is for you, and asking for help, with things like that. So what were some of the other things that your friends did that helped you get through that period?
One of the things that was so helpful is I didn't have the energy. It was all I could do to get through the day. I was drained and then been that heavily medicated. And I was also, I had rods in my arm. And so I was, on some pain medicine as well. But the thing that they did that I was so greatly appreciative of, they would come and get Landon and take them to their family holiday dinners. They'd take him shopping. They would take him, to get their Christmas trees. And so families were including him on their family experiences. And he was happy. He loved it. And he just thought he was special because
Oh,
everybody was including him. And so,
oh.
yeah, it was really good.
Yeah, and so he had the honor of seeing his father in heaven. I mean, I know he still had the frustration with his body not cooperating.
Right.
So maybe that was a blessing there that he had that at least.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So some general holiday survival tips, if you can give some to people that are in this grief process during this time.
Okay. The first one that you're going to come up is, Thanksgiving. And if you've just lost someone, it is hard to be thankful because you see what you don't have instead of what you do have. And one of the things that we do in Grief Share, and it's so helpful, and it's hard to see when you're grieving of all the ways that you're blessed, but start a list from A to Z and you just start listing things. You can list people, you can list foods, you can list anything that you're grateful for. You start with A, it could be angels, and then you go to B, it could be books, the Bible, bananas, absolutely anything. And you just go all the way to Z. Maybe you can only think of one thing a day. And that's okay. But maybe you go all the way A through Z and you start back over and just count your blessings. It's people, it's anything. And it really will make you see all the things that you do have to be thankful for during Thanksgiving. And another thing that I did, I obviously didn't do it my first year of Thanksgiving, but a couple years later when I had the strength to do it, I was like, I'm going to have Thanksgiving this year. I was tired of not being able to be thankful. And instead of seeing everything that I didn't have and the challenges that I had, I was going to be thankful. And so I was really, trying to think hard, like what was the most thankful thing that I had? And it kept going to Landon being alive because that was my biggest prayer. So what I did that year when I decided to be thankful was to write a letter to the brain surgeon that worked on Landon. He had to rebuild his face. He had to cut him up from ear to ear, had to drain blood. There was just so much swelling. And so I wrote him a letter and I thanked him for his skills, for his time, for his education, for his hands, for being there. And I just gave him an update on, what Landon had done since that day that, his surgery. He had made All-Stars. He had gotten a scholarship. He had graduated. So I just wanted to thank him for everything that he had done. And I thanked him because I can celebrate Mother's Day. Oh. I was like finally looking at what I could be thankful for. And I just want to wish him and his family a very happy Thanksgiving from a thankful mom. So if anyone, maybe there's a neighbor or a pastor or a doctor or a nurse or a friend or, hospice member, there is somebody that has helped you on your journey. And so just saying thank you to somebody, maybe it's a letter, maybe it's a meal, a plant, cookies. It can be anything for you just to show that you're thankful for them.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Gratitude is so powerful. One of the things I read about, and I guess this would be different with different individuals, but there were some people that felt it was helpful to set up a way to honor the person that you've lost. And I imagine if it's something that's happened just now, that would be very difficult to do. So there may be a time where that comes into play down the road. But were there things that you did to kind of remember your husband, or was there anything helpful there?
As I said before we started, I'm the poster child of what not to do.
Okay.
And so I wish I can say I did all the right things. And so that's why I'm a grief share facilitator. That's why I'm here today, because
Yeah.
I don't want people to make all the mistakes that I did. And so honestly, no, I
Mhm.
didn't. What I did was internalized everything.
Mhm.
And I was one person on the outside
Mhm.
and another person struggling on the inside. But yes, that's a great idea. And what some people do, they set the table anyway. They
Mhm.
set the place, where they would have been at the table. They set that place. And a lot of times, whatever their favorite food was, they'll
Mhm.
still cook that favorite dish or their favorite meal to honor them and, to do that. And so that's great to do.
Yeah.
I didn't
Uh,
do it, but it's great to
oh,
do.
well, I just asked. We had my husband lost his father. It's been about, gosh, it's been several years now. But one of the things I kind of do in our family, just for an example to kind of help someone else with an idea, he used to give gifts, obviously at Christmas. And one of the gifts he got my sister-in-law were these rocks that were soap. And at the time she was like, what a weird thing.
Yeah,
And
like the bombs
yeah,
things.
well, it's like, it looks like
It's
actual stone.
okay.
And I think he got him up in New York. But every year I remember her response, and I, as a joke, kind of to lighten the mood, but I give her one of those soap rocks every
Oh,
year, and
awesome.
she opens it, and it's become this special thing. It's like, oh,
Right.
we think about him. So some
That's
other
great.
things too I read were, just since we're on this topic, you can have a stocking, and each person can put in a happy memory, and
Mm-hmm.
this may not be for the first year.
Mm-hmm.
There's a timing of
Mm-hmm.
this, but you can pick a time where you're going to sit down and read everybody's memories,
Mm-hmm.
or
Mm-hmm.
a photo of them, or a candle, or something. Like you
Yes.
said, the food, that was a good one too.
Yes.
So
Mm-hmm.
something that you can do to celebrate the time that you had
You're
with
right.
them.
Mm-hmm.
Another big question I want to ask, obviously being a nurse in the hospital, and I know for a fact the ER gets a little crazy, and we see some really sad things happen.
Right.
People can get to a point where they're so low they can actually hurt themselves or
Mm-hmm.
try to take their life.
Mm-hmm.
Um, at what point, like if you're a friend or family member of someone who is getting at this point, what are the red flags that you can look for? When do you need to step in?
If you are a friend or a neighbor of someone who is grieving, they've
Mm-hmm.
recently lost one, and grief is hard. It does a lot to you physically, mentally, and spiritually. And there are days when the person's grieving, they just need a day to rest. But if they make that a habit where they're not getting out of the bed, when they're not returning phone calls, when they're not getting out of the house, they're not getting out of their pajamas,
Mm-hmm.
then those are the biggest red flags because they're internalizing everything. And it is so healthy just to be hugged, just to be
Yeah.
loved. And we talked about you don't want to say the wrong thing, and that is true. You don't want to say the wrong thing, but there's never a wrong time to give someone a hug and just say you are loved. And so maybe that's all they need to get through their day, and just keep reminding them that they're loved. You love them and God loves them,
Yeah.
just so they can feel that interaction.
Yeah. I think, sometimes just being present,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm guilty of always wanting to feel like I have to talk and
Mm-hmm.
soothe, say the right thing. And I think the power of just being there with
Mm-hmm.
someone when they're in that low point is
It says a
big.
lot. It
Mm-hmm.
says a lot. I remember one time riding back from the hospital. I didn't have a car yet because our car was totaled. And one of my girlfriends came to pick me up to the hospital. And we rode all the way from Carolina's Medical Center home and didn't say a word. It was
Mm-hmm.
just quiet time. And that time is precious to me now. I look back at that and she just knew there were no words, but I knew she was there because she was driving me home.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Any other words of practical things that people can do just to get through?
Well, we're also, we don't want anyone that is grieving, is you're in a dark place, but to go to even a darker place and just especially harder if the person that you're trying to love on is suffering from someone else, a loved one that has committed suicide,
Yeah.
because they're not only dealing with their own grief, they're wondering, like, they've got guilt. What did I miss? And were there signs and how I didn't know? And so sometimes it can be more. And so I think it's especially hard, to watch those who have lost another one from suicide.
Mm-hmm. Any advice on if you feel like someone needs professional help? How do you handle that?
If they need professional help, the first thing is, to talk to them about it.
Mm-hmm.
Do the homework for them. They're not going to do the homework. They don't have the energy to check out counselors. They don't have, they don't have it in them. But if you will say, I found one, I made you an appointment, I'm going to pick you up, I'm going to take you. I love you, but we're going to go. And just take them. They might go kicking and screaming. And if it's the right one, they'll thank you. But if it's become where you think that their life is in danger,
Mm-hmm.
do it. If they get mad at you, they'll get over it.
Yeah.
And that's okay. And maybe you sit in there with them, maybe you don't, but definitely get them help. Don't leave them by themselves. Spend the night with them. There are no words. They're mad at you. You take your pajamas and you sleep on their couch. You just are there with them so that they're not by themselves.
Yeah. Great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's, as someone who hasn't gone through something like that personally, I mean, I lost grandparents, but someone like a spouse or a child or,
Mm-hmm.
something overwhelming like that, you don't realize that you don't even have the energy
Right.
to just drive yourself there.
Right.
No,
you don't. It's too much.
It's
and
that
then,
much.
because you have to get ready and you have to put on clothes.
Yeah.
And to even say the words and talk about why you're hurting is draining enough. So they don't have the energy.
Mm-hmm. One more thing about kids, that's on my heart for some reason. I can't imagine what you went through,
Mm-hmm.
the timing of it, and then it being Christmas. Like, I know you talked about your friends taking Landon out at Christmas time. What advice do you have for people that have children that are trying to cope themselves? Like, how can we help children? Obviously, the book can speak to them a little bit about heaven, but are there any other tips for kids?
Kids totally handle things differently.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times you'll see kids running around like they're not even, realizing their dad is gone or, whatever. But they do. It's just in different ways. The biggest advice I have for that is to communicate. Ask them, like, would you like to get a Christmas tree in memory of your dad, your mom, your brother, your sister, your grandparent, and get a little Christmas tree and take them shopping. Let them pick out ornaments to go on the tree. Let them, whatever's special to them. Maybe that, grandparent always ate M&Ms. You can make it fun. It doesn't have to be a sad Christmas tree. And what they do is each year when they get that little tree, they add an ornament to it. And it's kind of in their room and it's on their level. And it doesn't have to be sad. It can be fun ornaments.
Yeah, that's great.
But communication is the best thing. Just like, letting them know that we know it's different. We understand it's different. What do you want to do?
Yeah.
So they're pretty smart and they can tell you.
Mm-hmm. So it's good to be open and obviously talk with them.
Yes.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that I have a friend, Jill, she lost her mother last year just before the holidays. And one thing she did with her kids I asked her, personally, I'm getting ready to do this. And she said she felt like doing something new, like making a new tradition instead of having that same routine where you're got the empty seat at the table. They actually went to dinner and went to a movie and just did something totally out of the box. And it helped her and her children, to still be able to enjoy it in a little bit of a new way.
That is perfect. It ties right into I've got 10 survival tips, and that is number one. The first thing that you have to realize is, we all have traditions, and it is okay this year to either take a break from what those traditions are or to start a new tradition. Just because you've done this for 20 years, 10 years, 5 years, whatever, you don't have to do it this year. And, sometimes it can be as simple as, maybe you had Christmas Eve dinner or you hosted Christmas breakfast. There's so many different things. Do it a different time. And if you were the one hosting it, it's too much pressure. You don't have to host it. It's okay to say, I can't do it this year. And understand you get a pass guilt-free. A lot of times we think we have to do it because it's always been done. No, you don't. So just don't feel obligated to do it because it can be too hard and it can be too much.
Excellent.
Yes. So that was perfect. I'm glad she did that. Yes,
Okay.
that was perfect. I'm glad that she did that. And so the second tip that I have is it's okay to cry. A lot of times when you're in these settings, you don't want to cry. You feel like that you're going to spoil the fun for everybody else. But everybody else is watching you. They're going to wait to see how you're doing. And if you're sad, it's okay to cry. You don't have to fake your way through the holidays. Just be real with how you're feeling. And so it's just go with how you're feeling.
Yeah.
And the third thing is if you do have a social function, you get a lot of invitations. And you think a lot of times you get more of them because if you've lost a spouse, because they know that you're by yourself now, you're alone. And so people want to include you. Maybe it's a neighborhood function or a church function or friends. And if you don't want to go alone, because a lot of times you feel like you're the third wheel, and it's okay to take a friend. It's okay to take, a sister or, somebody. So don't feel like that you have to go to these events by yourself.
Excellent. And I would think too, I would kind of let the person know, like, if you need to leave.
Yes.
I like to have my exit if you needed to, if you got triggered or,
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm giving you a heads up. I'm coming, but I don't know how long I'm going to stay.
Yes.
I'll just sneak out the back door.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Have a backup plan.
Yeah.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. That's great.
And the fourth thing is exactly what you said earlier. Light a candle. Put pictures around that candle. They were such a part of your life. You can't pretend that they will, you hurt so much during this time of year because you loved so much. And definitely do something. Maybe it's on your kitchen table where you're going to be eating. Maybe it's on your fireplace. But your favorite picture, it can be a funny picture. It can be a family picture. It can be anything that brings you joy, with that candle. But I would say light it around the holidays. And just, that's their way of being there with you.
Yeah. Love that.
Yeah. The next thing is to don't expect too much of yourself. And like we were just talking about, to take an exit, when you need to. But if you just need a day of rest, don't put more on yourself than you have to. No's are okay. I can't do that. Or, maybe they're having a cookie exchange. You don't want to bake cookies, and you don't have to. You don't have to participate in everything. People are going to invite you. They think it's to cheer you up, not realizing how much energy it is to bake cookies or to be happy. So, so don't put too much on yourself.
That's good. Healthy boundaries.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And the other thing is, I don't know if the younger people do this, but a lot of people do Christmas cards and stuff. It's like, you don't know how to sign a Christmas card if you've just lost a spouse. It's sad just to put your name by yourself. You don't have to do Christmas cards. You don't have to sign your name. If you want to, we have had people in the past to do Christmas cards, but part of their Christmas cards, they included a grief letter. And what that grief letter was is like, I'm having hard days. I thank you. I appreciate you. I just want you to let you know I love you. I'm not reaching out right now because I'm taking some time for myself. I'm seeing a doctor. Whatever you want to share, that's not your traditional Christmas card, but this is all new things. It doesn't have to
Mm-hmm.
be. To let those that that you would normally send a card, I love you, I'm thinking of you, but this is what I'm going through right now, because they want to know. They truly want to know, but they don't want to ask.
Yeah.
And because they're afraid to upset you. And so,
Yeah, it goes back to that communication.
yes.
Yeah.
And, a lot of times, I was upset when people wouldn't ask me questions. And I would be upset when they did, but it was because it was sad because he wasn't there. And I cried either way, but it's an easier cry when people remember your loved one instead of not mention it. You feel like he mattered, and so it's better to do whatever you want to do to acknowledge that they mattered instead of not.
Very good.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Number 7 is something that is going to be really helpful. Landon and I did not do this our first Christmas because I did not do anything right. But
You were surviving.
I was surviving. That's all I was doing.
Yeah.
I was surviving. But I did do this my first Father's Day, which happened to be my husband's birthday. It fell on the same day. And as everyone that's on a grief journey knows, anticipating these big days are harder than actually surviving them. It's like, December the 26th, you wake up and you're like, oh, I made it. But December 24th, you wake up so heavy. How am I going to get through this? But what I would encourage you to do, what Landon and I did, because his dad's birthday was coming up and Father's Day was coming up. You can't not see that in every store that you're shopping in with all of the cards and stuff. And so I asked Landon, I was like, what are we going to do? And so we were talking about it. And so that was communication. I reached out to my 9-year-old son. What are we going to do? And so he and I talked about it, and we wanted to be able to buy, Andy a gift, and we couldn't. And so we wanted to help somebody else. And so the money that we would have spent on a gift for him for Father's Day and his birthday, we helped this boy that was in college. How all college students are, eating ramen noodles and stuff, but he was having open heart surgery. And we secretly gave him money, and it was Landon, it's our secret. We knew why we did it. And that brought us so much joy. And like Landon was asking me, he kept asking me, how's he doing? He had an interest in this teenagers recover. And so there is somebody that you can help. And one of our grief share sessions, this lady was sharing where their loved one only wore the hooded sweatshirts. Every day, every color, every style, all they did, their loved one only wore the hooded sweatshirts. So that year, they went shopping and they bought hooded sweatshirts, every size, every color. And what they did, they went downtown Charlotte to the homeless shelter, and they passed out those hooded sweatshirts in memory of their loved ones. All those homeless people did not know why they were getting it, but the family did. And so there are things that you can do that no one else will know but you. And that became their new tradition. So, it can be something as simple as that.
That's beautiful.
Yes. Yeah. The next thing is hard to do, but it is very, very helpful and therapeutic to do, and that is to journal. You have so many emotions. It's overwhelming. The holidays are over. there's just so much going on for anybody with whatever normal is. Like, I don't even know what normal is, but like,
Yeah.
For someone who's not on their grief journey, the holidays are crazy. Get a journal. It can be one from the dollar store, but write down how you're feeling. Write down, I'm mad today, or I'm sad today, or I'm trying to think of somebody to be thankful for today, or I've got a doctor's appointment today. I'm going to get out of my pajamas today. It doesn't have to be deep, life-changing things, but journaling, because the more you keep everything inside of you, it grows. It's like you've got to release it. And it's amazing how releasing those words through a pen can bring you so much comfort. And so I just encourage everyone to journal and write how you're feeling.
Beautiful advice. I totally agree with that. It's therapeutic.
It is so therapeutic.
Yeah.
To this day, I journal every day. It can, so many things, and it's really, really, really helpful.
Awesome. And that was 9. Okay.
Yes. And the number 9, what I would strongly encourage you to do is to give yourself just a few minutes. Morning is the best time for me, but do whatever's good for you. Read a verse, through your Bible. Read a devotion. Everybody loves Jesus calling.
Yes.
And it only takes a few minutes. It gives you scriptures. It's like God is talking to you. And so I just encourage you to read a verse, a devotion, a day. You need to feed your spirit, your mind with God's word, because the devil, when you're at your lowest, the devil's going to get busy. He's going to work double time on you. And even though you don't have it and you might still be fussing at God, read it anyway.
Yeah.
He knows that you're mad. He knows that you're hurt. He knows that you're angry. Read it out loud. You keep the devil away from any false lies and schemes that he's going to try and work on you while you're at your lowest.
Yeah, excellent. I have that. And there's actually an app on your phone for free. You can download Jesus Calling and have it right on your phone. I read it this morning.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh,
yeah.
That's great.
So even better. Yeah.
Yes. Well, as I saved the best for last.
Okay.
And tip number 10 is, there's so much commercial with Christmas, with Santa Claus and Rudolph and Elf on the Shelf and all of that. There's a lot of that. And I understand it's fun for kids. I'm not saying that, to take the fun away. But while you're grieving, while you're hurting, while you're struggling just to face each day, to understand what Christmas is really about. And we can celebrate Christmas with what the true meaning is, and that is Jesus Christ being born.
Yeah.
We want to celebrate his birth because he was born, and because he died for us. He promised us that we're going to see our loved one again. And we want to celebrate his birth. Because of that, you're going to see your loved one healthy. They're going to be in a new body. They're going to be waiting on you with open arms. It's going to be eternity. There's going to be no more suffering, no more cancer, no more tragedy, no more Alzheimer's, no more medication. And I heard this, the best thing that, has stuck with me is like, there will be a death to death. And so it's just, truly celebrate, have a birthday party. You were talking about what to do with children. Bake a cake together, help them decorate it, and just have a birthday party for Jesus. And focusing on that, there's a lot other tips, but those will help you get through. It's not celebrating. I'm not telling you to celebrate. And this is just tips to survive the holidays right now.
Yeah. Excellent.
Yes.
So good. So recapping new traditions.
Yes.
And then giving yourself permission. This is a process, and you need to allow yourself to feel whatever you feel, anger or sadness. And, people around you are going to understand that. And then social functions, if you brave it, make sure you have an exit route.
Yes.
Lighting a candle, remember doing things to remember your loved one with photos. Don't expect too much of yourself, setting healthy boundaries around what you can take. And Christmas, let me see, be a time when you, yep. Christmas cards, you get a pass.
Yes.
I think everyone's going to be like, yes.
Yes.
Okay. And then consider giving the gift in memory of your loved one. I love that idea. That's wonderful. I even had people that went to serve in a soup kitchen in memory of their loved one. Finding time to reflect and journal, and remembering, yes, Jesus calling, finding something to feed your spirit during this time, whatever that might be for you. And then the Bible, and remembering it's Jesus's birthday and what the real reason is for Christmas. So this has been amazing. I'm going to attach a lot of different resources. I'll even attach the Jesus Calling, anything that we can get, we will post for you to help you during this time. So thank you so much for listening. I hope that people pass this around. There's so many people that need help. And if you're a human being and you're anywhere in public, there are people all around you that are struggling. We need to really be in touch with one another. And thank you so much, Julie.
Oh, thank you.
And thanks for watching. God bless.